Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone, so here we are today with Dijan, and I don't know your last name, Dijan, but welcome and thank you for being here. Dijan is a yoga therapist, a certified yoga therapist, yoga teacher, and classical Tantra teacher. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
So please enlighten us and tell us about that.
Sure. I don't use my surname in my work anyhow, so it's okay. Dijan is enough.
Okay.
The classical Tantra part may be new since you're already working on these yoga therapy topics for a while. Maybe I introduced that mystical one first.
Yes.
When we say Tantra, there are so many crazy things coming to mind, especially focusing around sexuality.
Yes.
Exactly. What I'm doing has nothing to do with it. Classical Tantra is a many thousands of years old science of energy, science of life. That's how I can summarize it. And there are different forms of these practices. Some of them very loose, just around being present and anchoring into the spontaneity without many methods. And some of them are very structured, very ritualistic. It's like chemistry of energy in a way that you conduct with mantra, yantra, sacred sound, sacred geometry, and different forms of rituals. So what I do is basically these form practices of classical Tantra, and that's what I'm sharing.
The former, the first, you mean? So
Actually, I'm trained in both. I'm trained in both. I am trained in Kashmiri Shaivism, which is a monistic teaching. And there are amazing meditation techniques there, but all of them are for the purpose of being in the now and accepting the divine within, instead of trying to achieve something, a state, realizing that we are already there. It's about embracing that.
So it's a lot like mindfulness, actually.
Yes and no. And no. If there is a bit of going beyond the mind there.
Yeah, of course, but mindfulness is totally going beyond the mind.
And I'm also trained in the very formed, classical, structured, ritualistic practices. So bit of
lovely.
both.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
So that's the Tantra part. Yoga therapy part, I am practicing it for many years already, certified by IAYT, and it's a big passion project for me, which started with my own process of healing, my own process of connecting to the body.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with your journey. When did you arrive to yoga? Why? How? And how did it become yoga therapy?
Sure. The first entry was a bit interesting, actually. I used to dance a lot. I was a dancer, and yoga was practiced by all of my fellows. But I had my judgments because it came with a certain lifestyle, with a certain attitude, with a certain jargon that really irritated the crap out of me. I really hated that, I really hated the love, butterfly, and all of those stories that didn't feel authentic to me, honestly. And so I just entered it for the sake of, body connection, flexibility, trying it out. And it brought a lot of calmness. It brought a lot of peace. However, it wasn't a very guided, structured practice. It was just very fluidic. Then somehow, right before starting a major project, I had this call from a friend of mine praising this particular style of classical yoga, which was very scientific in a way, which was very well explained, well transmitted, and she thought I would really enjoy this. So I responded to that calling, and I went to a very intensive retreat of 5 weeks, like every day, 8, 9 hours of yoga. I like
Wow.
intensity. I'm
Yummy.
a pitta type of a person, so my Ayurvedic constitution likes that focus and intensity, and I really loved it. I explored what yoga is in its entirety. And in parallel to that, I met my teacher, who's a medical doctor and homeopath and a yoga therapist. So,
What's her name?
Ananda Maha Michaela Pentelich. At
Okay.
that time, I just went for a consultation because I was suffering from a very, very imbalanced immune system. Like I would get a couple of flus a year. They would last for weeks. I had asthma issues, like lots of issues around my immune system. And her intervention, together with whatever I learned and kept on practicing in this training, which is not only limited to asana, it was meditation, it was kriyas, it was dietary adjustments, lifestyle adjustments. So it was a very big immersion, and they worked like magic. I
Wow.
for the first time I felt like I have a bit of a saying in my
Yeah.
well-being.
Yes.
I can really alter things with my own will and commitment
And
and
tools, the practices as
tools.
well. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
tools in a knowing way and in a loving way. So instead
Yes.
of
And
just
naturally.
exactly, instead of being subjected to certain medications, I was really traveling with a health pack everywhere. I was a consultant and traveling a lot, and it was ridiculous the amount of supplements and medications that I carried around, and I was just sick of it.
Oh, wow, that bad.
Yeah, and basically starting with that, which happened in 2009, that first consultation, we entered a long phase of healing. Probably we will get there in our talk, but maybe it's worth to mention already. Yoga therapy, yoga, these tools are not like pills that you take in and immediately you have amazing effects. Maybe for beginners, like when you're doing it for the first time, it's such a shock to your body in a
Beginner's
positive
luck.
direction. Exactly. So everything feels massive. But
Yeah.
once your practice is established, you notice more and more it takes time for the body to find its balance.
I also think it's a fact of, as you practice longer, the issues that come up are also subtler. So
obviously,
yeah. So
Yeah.
then it takes longer to find out how to work with that.
Yeah, you start with the physical body, physical symptoms, and eventually it goes deeper and deeper into your mind, into your thought patterns, and even beyond. Yeah, so that journey started, and it's still continuing. The body is a dynamic vehicle, constantly changing. New imbalances happen, and even if one is trained oneself, although I have maybe the know-how, I still need a mirror. Like when I'm in the thick of an issue, a health issue or an emotional or mental issue, I still need my mirror, and I still, at least once a year, receive a consultation and advice, a guidance from my teacher. However, that seed developed so strongly in me, and I was so convinced, and I was so mesmerized by this, let's say, connection with my body and with my life through these tools. I knew that I would study it eventually. And my teacher slowly developed an amazing program at that time. I waited for a year or two for it to really develop.
To become,
to ripen up. And eventually I did that very intensive course of in total 2,000 hours.
Oh, wow, 2,000 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the training bit is 650. But then there's a lot of time that is invested in supervision. I worked a lot as a yoga therapist, as a mentee.
Internship.
Yeah, internship in the clinic.
Great.
And yeah,
That's
it
wonderful.
was a many-year-long process. So it didn't happen overnight.
When was this?
2015. Yeah,
Okay.
2015. That's when I started.
This was in Turkey? All of this?
No, it was in Thailand.
In Thailand.
It was in Thailand. The program is not offered anymore. That's why I'm not.
Shame.
Yeah, my doctor is working elsewhere right now. However, it was a wonderful program, and that was the start of it. And then it's, as you probably know, it's just the start of it. You need to keep on reading, studying. With every new client, new doors open. You need to investigate how these esoteric Eastern tools can be utilized for different issues with respect to the Western context also. So it's a continuous process of learning, which will never stop. And even the accrediting bodies require that continuous education, I guess. So it's not like you do one course and then you're a yoga therapist forever. Yeah. No, that's not it. It really goes on. And I love that, actually.
Of course. And there's so much to learn. There's so much new stuff also from the medical fields and scientific world that is incorporated and essential for our understanding.
The number of research, like reliable scientific research products, is slowly increasing. Not as fast as we would like it, but slowly we're getting there. But yeah, there's still a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, it's a lack of grants and funding. That's the main issue. Yeah,
probably it's a cheap way for well-being in yoga therapy. So it may not be very popular.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So you've been. After you left this course, what happened? After you finished with your teacher?
As I said, for many years, like the first a year and a half was mainly internship, I would say. And then I started my own brand. And yeah, basically, I've been working nonstop through private consultations. I also taught at that course in the years to come. I offer, to this day, I constantly offer especially personalized retreats because my experience is one consultation and a tailor-made program according to the needs of the person is amazing. But if they come for a retreat experience for a few days and we can go deeper and they also get to practice the program more and more with my guidance, it settles more. And I can also offer complementary things to support the well-being, like body work, or not by me, but
someone else,
connection with other practitioners and therapists, healers, and then I feel even more satisfied. And
of course. And you do this in group, these retreats?
Very rarely in group, because yoga therapy it requires this individualized approach. Small groups, yes, sometimes it's a group of friends, a couple, or it can be, if it's on a specific topic, like I used to do, I don't do them anymore because of the pandemic, but I used to do lots of workshops on very specific topics, like immune system balancing, or pelvic floor health, or stress management, sleep, very specific topic, together with an intake of each individual joining. Because it's not, you cannot give a standard recipe to everyone.
No, of course not. Work. No, but I've heard some other yoga therapists sharing how they would first see the clients privately, give them a program, work on the program once or twice, and then they would come to the group. They would do the first 10 minutes something together, and then each would do their own program in the class together as a group, and she could go around to everyone and maybe adjust some or reflect back or give some advice.
Yeah, that
make
happens. I mean,
adaptations.
that happens sometimes. Like, as I said, before the pandemic, I used to do 1 or 2 group retreats a year on the topic of yoga therapy. The rest
Mm.
would be mostly individual. And
Hmm.
it's, in my experience, it works best when people actually have this similar connection, like I have with my own therapist, a long-term connection. And I have
Mm.
several clients like that. Like every
Mm.
year, we
They
kind of
come.
find a way to meet up,
Wow.
either online or in person, and we go deeper and deeper. And that's of course most effective format. However, group experiences or one-off events are also precious, because it's like you put in a seed, and you
Mm.
never know when that seed will flower. Maybe not immediately, but it's like you suggest something precious to the person,
Hmm.
and when the person feels ripe enough, ready enough, they always go back to it, even if it happens a few weeks after, a few years after. They
10
always
years
go.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It always, in my experience, it always bears some fruit.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a beautiful um, metaphor for that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love to do more group work. Right now, at my retreat center with my co-founders at Samyama Mindfulness Meditation Center, we are focused on meditation and yoga teacher training courses. So we do
Hmm.
give group teachings, and there I just introduce what yoga therapy is and how it
Okay.
differs from yoga.
Hmm.
And I have, of course, lots of students who develop a particular interest for yoga therapy, and then I have to guide them towards teachers who are training people in yoga therapy. But eventually, I hope, depending on life, I hope to
Yes.
offer trainings on yoga therapy as well one day.
Hmm.
Let's see when it will happen. Right now,
Hmm.
it's a bit difficult to plan these things.
Yes, yes, it's difficult to plan anything right now.
Hmm.
Do you want to tell us what makes yoga therapy so different from yoga? Would you like to go into that?
Well, yoga is a moksha shastra. Yoga is for liberation. Yoga
Okay.
is not for a healthy spine or healthy lungs or stress management.
Well,
Yoga's
I think
purpose is
yoga,
union.
yeah, yeah, but it depends. I mean, it depends. Everyone has a different idea of what yoga is. Yoga is many things. I think yoga
Mhm.
is everything. It depends on where you are on your
Exactly.
journey. Yes.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's about union. It's such a big concept in that sense. And
Yes.
to cultivate that state of union,
Mhm.
yoga can help you if the vessel is weak, which means the body is weak. It can help you with the body. If
Mhm.
the mental vessel is weak, it can help you with the mind.
Mhm.
If the spiritual vessel needs more support, it can help with the karma. So it can help with so many things. Whereas
Well,
yoga
thank you.
therapy is
Now you're explaining it. Because if we talk about union, there's a lot of people who just go, well, sorry, this is too woo-woo for me. You know what I mean? Well, let's bring it
yeah,
back
I
to normal
understand.
language.
Well, union, we all experience union. You know, when you
Of
look at a
course.
beautiful flower and you're amazed by its beauty, you have a state of union. When you look
Yes.
at the horizon and you feel infinity within you, you have a state of union.
Yeah.
You've
Wholeness.
been to the gym and
You feel
uh,
physically
yeah,
wonderful. Yes.
exactly. And there is this amazing calm and stillness in you. That is a state of union. There are
Mm.
different degrees, levels, but we all have that one way or
Mm-hmm.
another. Yoga is basically providing, in my opinion, of course, I'm telling you my perspective of yoga. It's not a
Mm.
textbook definition of yoga necessarily, except for being moksha shastra. It gives us the scientific tools in a way, the experimental tools, because it's
Yeah.
also an experimental science, to make those states integrate,
Mm.
to cultivate those states of union in a continuum.
Yeah. And into daily life.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, that's what I
Because,
mean by integration, not just
yeah.
on a yoga mat or at
No,
the end
in
of the meditation,
everyday
but
issues.
in every day.
Yeah.
Whereas yoga therapy is a very specific use of in my opinion again, of these tools for addressing again specific issues to improve the quality of our life. And the quality of life is also a big concept. For some, again, it's about the health of their spine, headaches, and so on. And for others, it's about cultivating an overall well-being and improving their focus, improving their creativity, improving their feeling of safety, security in this life, trust, or improving their relationships. So there are so many dimensions that are being addressed by utilizing those tools within the framework of yoga therapy. So that's basically how I can roughly differentiate between them. One is more targeted.
It's more specific, but we're still working with those different, like you call them, vessels, and I think that's a beautiful way to say it. And yes, this is very clear what you've just explained. Very easy for people to understand. Aha, that's how we do it. So yeah. I wanted to ask, how do we do this then as yoga therapists? How do we get to the understanding? What is so essential in yoga therapy to get to the root cause, to understand which vessel or which body, which part of ourselves needs that nourishment?
This is actually what I wanted to focus on during this talk also, the process of intake. That also makes a big difference between a regular yoga class, a drop-in class, where you have a wonderful yoga experience, you feel great, and that's it. Which is enough, by the way. Some may choose to do that, and it's perfect. You know, I have nothing against that. It's just the big difference happens, and also the possibility of directing these tools happens after the process of intake. What does it mean? Every person is a complex matrix. Every individual have their own history, their own lifestyle, their own patterns of thinking, their own bodily issues, composition, temperaments, experiences, geography of where they live, lifestyle. There are so many factors. So that makes it, in a way, impossible just to throw some techniques out there and see, okay, this is good for stress, and this is good for constipation, or
There's so many things.
Like Googling it doesn't really work, I have to say. You know, I love saying Google, and I love YouTube, and I love all this access to information. However, one needs to be careful, you know, because also people usually have the tendency to seek methods, to seek tools that aggravate their situation. Because that's what they enjoy. You know? And that's what they have been doing all along.
It's their proclivity, their disposition. Yes.
Exactly. If a person is type A personality and loves stimulation,
they're going to do power yoga.
Exactly. And it would make them worse. You know, I had clients who found themselves at a freeze state, at a total burnout, after doing an intensive self-care regime. But that self-care regime was not really guided according to a proper intake. And it was basically around the things that they enjoy.
Or think they need to do. Because there's so much in their head.
Exactly. The mind-body connection is a big issue in our current time. Because all of our lifestyle, especially if we are functional beings, are not regulated according to our body's needs or the seasonal cycles. It's regulated according to the necessities of our job, of our family, of whatever. And because of that, we become more and more separated from our body. So basically, our first step, maybe as yoga therapists, is to have a look, to have a long talk around all of these different parameters that I have mentioned earlier. All of them. So for me, an intake lasts 1 hour minimum, and usually much longer. And the first intake is a good starting point. But usually everything unfolds more and more in time. After the first intake, we develop a program according to the lifestyle, according to what that person can actually bring into their lives.
Yeah.
However, afterwards, it's ideal that we look at how this program has influenced that person, what kind of changes had happened. And then we go into a second layer of the onion. So we unpeel layer by layer, and it's a process. It's
Yeah.
a process.
And each
But
time,
that's how it starts.
yeah, each time it reveals a little more what they actually are looking for or needing.
Indeed, for the therapist also.
Yes.
You know, of
yes.
course, you are
You
using
find
your
out with them.
knowledge. Yeah, you
You
are
do it
using your
together.
background. You are using your technical skills of, let's say, analysis or synthesis of the situation. Our job is definitely not to diagnose anything. If there are health issues, we need to have the proper diagnosis to factor them in. It's not the job. However, we still need to make a synthesis that would work for the client. And this step needs to be ideally complemented with the follow-up steps.
Yep. Yeah. And so, what do you think are essential questions, or how do you think the intake does this so well? Because we look at all these different aspects and we connect the dots.
Mhm. There are different dimensions. One is, of course, having a yoga therapist needs to have a proper structure
Yeah.
for the intake.
Yeah.
Usually, a good schools, good teachers provide you with a format of that. I mean, that's one of the prime elements of the teaching formation as a yoga therapist. And that structure contains many dimensions, starting from the physical body. How does the physical body operate? All the systems of the body, digestion, immune system, nervous system, everything. How do they all operate? And how do I look at it? I ask questions about sleep. I ask questions about elimination, about sexual drive, about all kinds of tendencies related to the systems. Then comes the next phase of emotion and mental state. Then there are different sets of questions in that direction. And of course, it's good to know what kind of a spiritual container the person has, because everybody has a different belief system. And the yoga therapeutic approach needs to respect that too. So it's a very multi-layered intake, I would say. And this is the structured part. Then there is the subtle part where you observe the person. In yoga, we would call this samyama, like the name of our retreat center, personal identification, like feeling. It's more than feeling, actually. Yeah, it's like becoming one with that person to really
Okay,
feel
in
what
that
they're
sense.
going without projecting.
Yeah.
Without projecting. That's a particular skill that you can only develop through yoga. It's not a given thing. And then there are the more objective observations about how the person speaks when talking about a particular issue, the eye contact,
Eye movement.
yeah, movements, gestures, colors, blushing, sweating, all of these little factors, the body typology.
Yeah.
If you are interested in Ayurveda like me, you would definitely look a lot into those details. So basically collect as much information as you can. So it's a very, very intensive and period for the therapist, which requires a
Yes.
lot of presence.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of exploring and understanding and observing and putting it all together. Yeah.
And afterwards, once this stage is complete, usually the stage itself can be very liberating for the client, because it's very common that I hear, oh, I never thought about these things. So it's a very good way of self-exploration.
Yeah, self-knowledge. It's the first
Self-knowledge.
step.
Yeah. So this step itself can be very beneficial for the person to make the necessary adjustments in their life themselves, actually.
Yeah.
And the next step would be to set priorities, because as we may have several issues that we want to deal with, but what is the most important? And there is a scientific prioritization as well. You know, you prioritize nervous system over the skeleton. So there are different things that needs to be considered there that go in junction with what the person really needs. And then basically sticking to the priorities, not trying to address everything,
At once.
overloading the person and yourself, suggesting a program that may be useful. Then the ball is at their corner, basically. Whether they will
got to
practice,
do the work.
yeah. Whether they will practice or not, it's totally up to them.
And you notice it, don't you? When they don't
Yeah.
practice, you really
Of
see it. And
course.
when they do, you really see it too. And they notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not our job to be the judge there. I mean,
No.
we can support as much as we can.
They judge themselves because as
Yeah.
soon as you ask certain questions, they realize, oh, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not seeing any change.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just one method they pick up and it works wonders.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with that too.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, and some go very disciplined. Some even forget about it. They feel so good after the consultation. They think that they have at least prioritized themselves for once. I believe in the placebo effect is more than 50%. You know that, right? So sometimes.
Well, I've heard from one of my mentors. She said just the fact that the person is able to really connect to the therapist, that in itself is like 50% of the healing process, because they've been heard, they've been seen, they've been accepted, and it's been objective. There's no judgment, which makes a huge,
that's so true.
Huge step.
That's also in my personal experience. It's so true.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about prioritizing. How do you prioritize, for example, once you've done the intake and then you've kind of created this program, what do you prioritize in the program?
For me, prioritization starts with what issue we want to address first.
Okay.
And it may be, if there's a very acute condition that needs support, a complementary approach, probably that would go first.
Of course.
If it's a long-term chronic condition that is due to a certain imbalance, that would be the second. So first of all, this more categorical prioritization.
Course. Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, I would propose a short program, which is like 5-10 minutes a day. And
something they can succeed in.
Definitely. I was watching one of the videos of Tony Robbins, and he was saying, if you don't have 10 minutes a day, you don't have a life. And I love that expression. for whoever wants to slack, this is a very strong sentence. If I see the need, I would say that. If I am with a person who's already very hard on themselves, I would probably not use it. But anyhow. Yeah. So something that they can really feel comfortable with introducing into their lives, because that works for me too. And suggested to do it as often as possible and observe the effects. And then there would be, within the same program, a longer suggestion, which could be from 45 minutes up to 1.5 hours. It's up to them whether they do it or not, because some really want to do a full program. For some, I can already feel it would be intimidating, so I would skip that entirely. So it's very subjective. Right now, I'm giving you an idea.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious how other people do it.
Yeah, sure. And then like the short program, the long program, and I would also have some lifestyle suggestions, like very basic dietary suggestions. I have experience with Ayurveda. I studied thoroughly as much as I can. And I have experience with macrobiotics. I do not go into other things that I don't have experience with, but of course, if a person is very sensitive around those, I have a nutritionist friend that I refer to.
Yeah.
And that referral is the next big thing.
Yeah.
If there are physical or emotional issues that need to be addressed by another professional, there will be a list of referrals.
Yeah, this is very essential.
Not necessarily towards people, but towards disciplines.
Yeah.
So that would be roughly the first program. The tools within the program, it can be very different. It can be anything. Yeah. I like learning and exploring new techniques. So I have a command of many different techniques, which is not necessarily required, for a good yoga therapist. A good yoga therapist can also work with less techniques in a deep way. And if he or she feels the need for exploration of different yoga styles, again, they can refer. For me, I like this diversity.
Of course, there is choice.
Yeah.
And I think as well, when you dive into many kinds of traditions and toolboxes, at one point you kind of distill everything and you can mix and blend things and you get to the kind of bottom line of what's really essential for that person right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be much more intuitive as well in your choice.
Exactly. And also meet the person where they are at.
Yeah.
If there's something that they enjoy already, which doesn't look yogic, I can suggest a yogic technique. Like if someone loves singing, wow, there's Vava Pranayama, here you go. There's chanting of mantras, here you go. So they can easily adopt that because it's already in their lives. So that's where mastering different tools comes in handy.
So thank you so much for all this beautiful explanation. Is there anything you want to add about the intake and the first few sessions that we have with clients and why it's so essential?
I would add, I think we covered the intake in good detail. I would add the importance of follow-up. I would really encourage people who would like to have a yoga therapy as a session complementary to their other measures that they're doing for their well-being. I would really suggest a long-term process instead of just having some ideas and then going with it. Even if the person doesn't do all the program in full, there is a shift happening, as we discussed.
Definitely.
During the intake, there's already a shift happening. There's a different way of looking at oneself, looking at one's habits, more awareness, and that creates change, mind over matter in a way. When the mind expands to a different dimension, it doesn't go back to its original size. So that's
impossible, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, even only a few techniques have been implemented. It's good to stay on the ball. Of course, if there's resonance with the therapist. If you don't have a resonance with the person you have chosen, please be aware there are many different yoga styles. There are many different personalities.
Yeah.
Keep
looking.
Find the person that works well for you.
That
feels good. Where you feel understood and supported, or whatever you need to feel. Some want to be challenged. Some want to be pampered. So I don't know. So find my therapist is a bit of a tiger mama.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
I can imagine you like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. But she's very loving, of course.
Of course, deep down, it's all out of love. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So just stay on the ball. That's something that I would definitely recommend. What you are working on is yourself. What is more important than that? When you are well, when you're healthy, when you're balanced, you are serving not only yourself but also everyone around you.
Exactly.
Your children, your family, your friends, your colleagues. It's a major peace project, if you ask me.
So lovely. That's a wonderful way to put it. Yeah. So I was reading on your website, you believe life can be experienced in a juicy, joyful, rich, and loving way. I also discovered this after incorporating the goddess traditions, which is what you work with a lot. Can you tell us about this?
Sure.
How you started to work with the goddess and why it was important to you?
Sure. It was also a new challenge for me in a way, since I am,
Peter.
yeah, since I have a scientific mind, I I wanted to challenge myself. Okay, you are good with doing things where you see clear benefits and where you see a clear path and methodology and so and whatnot. But what about all the mystical part? Will you be able to surrender to that? Was the driving force at the very beginning. And afterwards, once I dipped my toe into it, I was totally amazed by what was waiting for me. I I started doing uh, rituals I had no idea about. You know, I started doing mantras. I had no idea about their meaning. I went through very hardcore, intensive processes of several months, practice like 18 hours a day, you know, carrying wood, fire ceremonies, 9 hours a day, sitting for
On your
meditation.
own?
Like,
Or
yeah,
with
the
people?
group, with
With
the
the
group,
group,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, my formation of classical Tantra teaching lasted 6 years, and it was well. This is very short considering the tradition. Normally, 12 years non-stop
Really?
ashram life is the traditional
Okay, yeah.
benchmark. But we had the privilege, 64 people. We had the privilege of working with an Indian teacher who made it his responsibility in a way to share these teachings with Westerners.
Wow.
And
And
he
where was
found,
this? In India?
yeah, in India. It happened in form of these intensive pilgrimages, these intensive retreats, so to say, of a couple of weeks each. The last one was 36 days, but every year, sometimes once, sometimes twice, we would go to a tantric hotspot in India, so an auspicious place, and do very strong processes, like very austere practices, really strong, because yeah, you need to really have a steel-like vessel. You need to have a very strong kundalini, an energy body to contain
The
that
prana.
type of prana, that
Yes.
type of power in a way.
Yes.
So the training is very yeah, hardcore.
And can I just ask?
Sure.
Is this was before your yoga therapy training? I imagine.
I started in 2012 on this path. I mean, I was already initiated to the goddesses, the 10 wisdom goddesses, the Dasha Mahavidya, in another school, but it was more of a Raja Yoga, of a more mental kind of practice, with just working with the seed mantras of the goddesses and more of a stillness meditation. Whereas the path
more
that
consciousness.
Yes, exactly, which is very powerful, which is very beautiful.
Yes, but it's to transcend, and I think
exactly
we need to manifest, and that's why Shakti is so important, to do the bringing it back down.
Exactly. The second type of practice that I started in 2012 is very much around cultivating this Shakti. And not only in transcendental realms, but also in the vertical plane.
Yes, where we live.
Yeah,
here and now.
Exactly. In the here and now. So that was an amazing experience, which opened many new doors for me. And that's actually where this idea, where this notion of richness of life became more integrated in me too. Because these are all archetypical qualities in a way, if you want to explain it in a more Western way, that allow our mind to be channeled in a specific direction. Which allows us to open up to different phenomena in life.
And in ourselves.
In ourselves, exactly. Your sensitivities to different things amplify. Tantra works a lot with the senses. your sensitivity towards knowledge, towards beauty, towards compassion, towards time, all the different aspects of life gets amplified through these practices.
Yeah, because it's a focus of energy and awareness on that aspect of life. Yeah,
exactly. And not only through the mental constructs. Yeah, there are mental constructs which are represented as symbols, you know, like a goddess wearing fancy costumes covered in gold and so on. And those are, they are very fancy ways of working. And I experienced that many skeptics really enjoyed actually going into the ritualistic, because our reptilian mind responds to rituals, whether we like it or not. You know,
our mind, the emotional mind is symbolic, it's creative, it's
exactly. And many skeptics, including me at the beginning, respond very quickly to those. However, of course, the science is beyond that. Yeah, it's beyond that. It works with powerful aspects of life, powerful formulas, let's say, hidden in these sounds and geometry and everything, which is the pathway of Shakti download.
Yeah, exactly. Download. Oh wow, so great.
That was roughly my journey, and I didn't enter that journey with the purpose of teaching.
No.
It was just for my personal practice, honestly. It was really like, okay, I'm happy to share yoga, I'm happy to share meditation and eventually yoga therapy, but this is something that I'm doing for myself. However, at the end of the 7-year process, because our graduation was 1 year after completion of the process, our teacher was like, okay, you have to teach.
Wow.
It's your responsibility. You have to teach now. Okay.
What was his name?
Guruji Rajkumar Baswar.
Okay.
Our school is called Shivoham Tantra.
Oh wow.
So I have many teachers, and he's among the top.
We'll put it in the links in the show notes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
So
I'd love that.
The classical tantra technology, the knowledge comes from that school.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and basically our teacher now, after our initiation, took the position of providing the tools to us and teaching through us. He doesn't teach directly anymore. He uses us as the branches of the tree. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Another beautiful metaphor. I wanted to ask, so what did you see how this training affected you in day-to-day life?
Sometimes in a very practical way, having more power in manifesting what I want, but not in this ambitious, greedy way. It's really different. It's like I watched my life taking a shape that was more aligned with what lies in my heart, and it's not always a mental process. It's not always like, okay, I'm going to do this process to achieve that. No, it just happens organically somehow. This is the fruits of the sadhana in a way. This is the fruits of the practice. And sometimes, as I said, that increased sensitivity and connection with nature, my body as part of nature as well, this interconnectedness, this respect and love towards life.
It's very powerful. I can feel it as you're talking about it. I can see what you mean.
And this includes the dark sides of it as well. Being more compassionate and accepting to my anger, to my fear, to my frustration, and so on. Like this honesty towards all the dark side. Although, of course, we are trying to bring in harmony and reach the higher self. However, that's not with the cost of suppressing our human bits. It's more around coexisting with these bits.
Yeah, well,
it's also not the fixing them.
No, I don't think. I don't think even these things are bad or negative. I think they are just misunderstood, suppressed.
Exactly.
They are just energies trying to push us into a direction that's more aligned to us.
Yeah. Definitely. And of course, deepening of my meditation, that was the biggest let's say, indicator of the effects of
Okay.
this process. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's a different experience now. Meditation is a different experience compared to what it was before.
Yeah. Okay.
Without an attachment to the states, but I love the states too.
Yeah, I
I have
know.
to
It's
admit.
very hard to not get attached to those states.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take us through a small short practice?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I chose a practice that is more yoga therapeutic, not so much from classical Tantra, because as I
No.
said, Tantra comes with some rules and formats and so on. That would be a bit demanding. But I thought it would be good to have a little practice on the heart, because heart is our connection with the self. And when we are connected to the self, then there is more alignment within. There is more, like, the body recognizes itself in a way when we are connected to the heart. And the body can do, and the soul can do whatever job that is necessary. Most of the conditions happen because of a misalignment. And heart is the center, literally the center of our body as well, that helps us to reach that alignment. And secondarily, from a more functional point of view, it's a very well documented technique with proven effects on cardiovascular conditions, on stress management. If you want to dig a little bit into the scientific part, you can research for heart coherence meditation, and I'm sure you will come across lots of interesting papers on that. So it's a very simple technique, accessible for everyone. It doesn't require any level of practice. I invite you all to sit in a comfortable position. It may be sitting cross-legged for some, it may be sitting on a chair for others, whatever is comfortable for you. If you feel comfortable, also you may gently close your eyes. If that causes uneasiness, you may direct your gaze on the floor. We collect a lot of stimulation through our eyesight. We want to limit that a little bit so that we can interiorize. And now let us direct our attention to the breath. First of all, observing the breath as it travels in through the nostrils and out without changing its rhythm or amplitude, just as a moment of connection to the body through the breath, an aid to calm down our mind by anchoring into the breath. And now, slowly, we will introduce a pattern to our breathing. In breath, 4 units. Out breath, 4 units. Ideally, breathing through the nose. In for 4 units. And exhaling through the nose or through the mouth for 4 units. It may be 2 to 2, 3 to 3, whatever rhythm works comfortably for you. Allowing the breath to spread to the lower parts of the lungs by expanding the abdominal area with each in-breath and allowing it to gently be sucked in with each out-breath. Keeping your neck, your shoulders relaxed. If there is any contraction in any part of your body, allow it to dissolve with each out-breath. We will take a few moments to find most comfortable rhythm for our own body right now. Effortlessly entering into a comfortable deep breath, equalizing the duration of the in-breath with the out-breath. Inviting the mind back to the breath. Keeping your body relaxed, your mind relaxed, anchored in the breath. Once the rhythm of your breath is established, you may drop the counting and just keep the same breathing pattern. And maintaining that breathing pattern, let us visualize maybe a person that we truly love, a moment with them. Or it can be a place where we felt fully at peace, happy. Visualizing with all the details that you can master, especially connecting your state of mind, your state of emotion at that time, while breathing in and out. And now letting go of the visualization and just staying with this emotion, with this state of being centered in the heart, continuing with the same breathing pattern, as if each breath is nourishing that beautiful state of the heart. Staying centered in the heart, in the middle of the chest. And back with you, keeping your eyes closed, taking a short moment to observe your state of mind, your state of being. Notice the quality of your emotions, your thinking. And this concludes our short practice. You may gently open your eyes. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for that beautiful practice. I
A
feel very
pleasure.
settled. Yeah, it's lovely. It's just so simple but so effective. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, me too. And sometimes you think, I don't want to meditate, but it's like the little effort you put in, you get so much more out.
Yeah.
It's really worth it.
And it's such a multidimensional practice. You can do it just for a minute in daily life when you want to feel more centered, more open in the heart,
Connected, or
connected. Yeah. Or you can do it for hours and hours, and it may take you very interesting places.
One thing I've done now, because I've kind of lost the motivation with all this COVID, and my energy's just become very like slow, low key. I've just started putting on music that I like in the morning, and then sitting there with music. And if I want to move, I move. If I just want to sit there, I sit there. If I want to focus on my breath or go into a meditation, it really helps to kind of lift up and get started, or let it be more free flow. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need to make it a bit easier for ourselves to practice.
A lot easier.
Yeah. There are times, that are necessary to be dedicated to austerity, to create certain thresholds, let's say. But I don't find it very healthy in this lifestyle. We are not living in ashrams, we are not living in spiritual communities. We're living in our daily life, and we need to keep the balance that works for ourselves, basically.
Yeah, I think it's also what phase you're in. Like I've had, I think it was 30 years of austerity. I was very brutal with myself. I had to do it every day, in 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours a day. So for me, this is So for me, this is a new phase. It's where it's like, okay, if I only want to do 10 minutes, I just do 10 minutes. If that's all I can offer right now. Yeah.
But it's amazing that you did both, honestly, because they both have their value.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't encourage anyone to only go into a hedonistic fly wherever the wind blows me kind of a way of being either.
No, but I think tasting both extremes and then finding some kind of nice middle way in between the two is when that practice becomes juicy.
Yeah, golden middle path. Yeah.
Hey, lovely. Do you want to leave us with anything? Do you want to tell our listeners anything, where they can find you, what you're doing right now?
Sure. First of all, it was a great talk. I really enjoyed it a lot. Thank you for giving me the space.
Yes, I'm happy you're here.
Thank you. And if the listeners would like to get in touch with me to get a deeper taste of my work, they can visit my website, dijan.co, where I present all these programs. And actually, I am putting more and more energy into free sharing. So I have a platform on YouTube called Yoga Therapy Pill, where I share lots of short programs that are suitable for beginners, because I'm very worried about people hurting themselves through these online work without guidance. So the health, well-being is very important, obviously. And I try to share suitable programs. So you're free to dive into that. And for the ones who want to have a more personalized approach, I'm offering my Vibrance retreat. I call it Vibrance, on well-being online through personal Zoom sessions, and also a teaching platform where I have several discourses and practices stored. And on classical Tantra, I also have a free platform on Facebook where I share free teachings on different goddesses, and obviously a very detailed, thorough online platform as well. So I've been very creative during these pandemic times. So I'm sure you will find. I'm sure you will find something that works, appeals to you. And let's make the first contact. and see where it takes us. I will be happy to host any of your listeners on these free platforms and connect.
Wonderful. So you've really directed and channeled your Pitta energy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Manifesting. Okay. Yeah. So let's say goodbye to our listeners. Thank you everyone for joining and staying to the end. We love having you here. Yes. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
So thank you everyone for staying to the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I really love doing these talks with these amazing people. And if you want to know more, just take a look in the show notes. There's plenty of links and ways to connect with either the guest or myself. If you want to work with us or find out more about us, just check out the information in the show notes. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend or week, and you'll be hearing from me next week. Bye.